name is Ika. I'm 29 years old from the Philippines. I am not from Oxford. I'm a student at the University of Cambridge, the other place. But I've come here for a few days to work in the Bodleian Library and visit friends before flying out to Manila. I am a urban regional planner, but I work on armed conflict issues in the Philippines. They're not shoes for us, they're what we call chinelas back home, the standard footwear in Southeast Asia. So it's more practical to wear these flip-flops than shoes on a regular basis. I've had this pair for the last 6 years, and I've had them everywhere. They've come with me here to the UK. When I was still working in the peace process back home and we'd visit communities, the most convenient footwear to wear would be flip-flops. So I basically trudged all over with this pair. This has been the furthest distance for me coming from the Philippines to Europe. I've traveled with this pair extensively for the last 5 years. So that means going to the UK, going to Germany, going to the different places in back home. And usually it's communities outside Manila, the capital. Those are the furthest places that this pair has so far been my companion too. Yeah. I look forward to when I wear these. To wear this kind of footwear means it's a sunny day. It's warm enough to wear and your toes won't fall off, which has not been a regular occurrence here in Cambridge, in Oxford, or anywhere in the UK. So the rare days here in Europe where I can actually wear this pair have been something to look forward to, where you can have warmth on your toes the way I would back home. I love meeting people, hearing about people's stories, learning new things, and you can't do that without moving a bit. Things in everyday life that are difficult for me. I've lived a charmed life, and in many ways I've found things to not necessarily be difficult. I mean, at most I'd like to frame them as challenging. But I'm a very hard-headed person, and sometimes, while I love movement, change can be difficult. It's what I find special when I walk down the streets of Oxford is there's so much history. It's a melting pot of so many stories, but at the same time you're framed up and you're walking among stones that have been there for millennia and will be there ideally long before everyone has gone. You feel like there are ghosts walking beside you, and that's a very fascinating thing to feel, to have that much history. Oxford has that sense of, it's all stone, right? Everything is ancient buildings where you count centuries of age and narrative, and Manila doesn't have that. As a planner, it's very disconcerting in the sense that there's no real plan. The architecture in Manila is not more than 100 to 300 years old at most. And in a way, it's also the nature of differences between the spaces. We have storms every year, we have floods, and it's a bit more, not haphazard, but a more unstructured way of life. Whereas here, it's structured, time passes so slowly in a way. But in Manila and in Asia, it's a different pace. So anything that you build can be swept away in a matter of seconds. And so what matters is not the tangible stone, but the intangible. I'll be leaving fairly soon, and what I will be taking away is that sense of history, that it's possible to... The Philippines is, in a way, our resilience is tied to our forgetting. We forget so easily, we forgive so easily. And while that's sometimes a good thing, in many ways it's not. And so what I'm taking away from places like Oxford, like the UK, is that they count narratives in millennia. And that's something fascinating for me. What gets left behind, I think, in a way, this year was a death process as well for me. You can't be somewhere for an extended period of time and not change and die a little bit. So I don't know what or who will be stepping off that plane in Manila, but I'm excited to find out. Have I imagined myself in someone else's shoes? All the time. I work in development and armed conflict issues, and a lot with non-state armed groups, people whose lives and backgrounds and circumstances are very different from mine. And the only way I can do my work to any degree of effectivity, with hopes, is to do that. There's no other way. I think that in many places around the world, shoes are not a basic thing. I mean, for example, these flip-flops usually are all most people in my country can afford. They can't afford proper shoes, nor do they need to. But I think that beyond shoes or beyond the physical, I think what's important is to have a sense of safety, a sense of security, a sense of home, and that's not a given. We're privileged to have that, but not everyone has that all the time. Freedom of movement, and I think that's something that people in the West, the developed West, takes for granted. I travel on a Philippine passport, and while I'm here on a scholarship sponsored by the UK government, it's easier for me, but it's not easy for everyone. The Philippine passport is probably one of the weakest passports in the world. We can't go anywhere without going through 1,000 hoops and proving constantly our worth that we don't want to migrate illegally into someone's country. And I've experienced that many times attempting to enter the West. I can't imagine how it would be for someone who is less privileged or educated as I think it's very personal. They would say it's nothing personal, we're just doing our jobs, but it is very, very personal. And I've experienced having my visa declined at least once before by a major Western country for the fact that I was too young, too female, too Filipina to prove that I didn't have bad intentions of being there. And that was on an educational, academic purpose at that. So I can't imagine what people who are political refugees or migrants, I can't imagine what they're going through right now. My way of life is very blessed. I wasn't born rich, but I was given enough chances to be educated, enough opportunities to meet people and to learn more beyond what I would normally learn in my own context. I think that's privileged. Once I leave this planet, this earthly plane, I would like to leave some trace of, we all die eventually, but if there are people left who I've lived with, I hope they can think of me kindly. And there's this old chestnut which says, like, people forget what you say or do, but they don't forget how you make them feel. I believe that. If you were to walk in my shoes, I think I would like you to understand, I don't know, curiosity about things, perhaps. But, I don't know, for many Europeans, they think that the nation state is passé, like it doesn't exist. It's no longer a sense of identity that's valid for people, especially for third culture children. But for me, the sense of identity and place of where I come from is so strong. And I think that's something that I want anyone who walks in my shoes to understand. Now that you have my shoes, I'll have to walk on and I'm coming back to work back in Asia, and hopefully bringing with me all the learnings from this year. I don't know how it'll be integrated, but the challenge is to find out. I'm scared. I'm frankly scared shitless, but but yeah, it should be fun.